Part 2, DLC bosses, let's get into it. I'm ranking the Remembrance bosses based on their lore strength. However, some of these guys have no feats, and the placements may come down to how I think the matchups would go. As for how the DLC bosses compare to the base game, it's really hard to tell. You could say that since the Tarnished defeated Mohg to reach the Land of Shadow, then they're all stronger, but when we get into this first ranking, you'll see why that's probably not true. I will mention their power in relation to the original list along the way though. The Putrescent Knight spawned from the putrid flesh in the stone coffin fissure. Originally, it was just an amalgamated creature with no sentience, but after imbibing the nectar of Saint Trina, it gained a will of its own, swearing to be her knight. Saint Trina is actually another half or piece of the demigod Miquella, explaining how this could happen. And that's it. What would probably be a mini-boss in the base game is an entire Remembrance boss in the DLC. That's really the case for half this list. Pute Knight does not have any real feats or scaling to any other character. It's why I don't rank these bosses above Mohg, because lore-wise, it shouldn't be anywhere near as great as an actual demigod, unless you think Saint Trina, a piece of a weaker Miquella, is stronger than Mohg entirely, then she passed on that same power to some random creature. Like, no. In terms of the original list, Putrescent Knight might just be at the bottom, below even Godric. We truly don't know. The Dancing Lion was the representation of the divine beast and was used by the Hornsent to perform rituals. However, upon Mesmer's invasion to the Land of Shadow, the ritual was turned against his forces. A fitting decision, seeing as only the most skilled warriors among the Hornsent were chosen to become Dancing Lions. Even still, this beast is just the best force the Hornsent possesses, akin to a tank basically. There's no implication of them being any more powerful beyond that, especially when one of the demigods is shown to have easily dealt with multiple of them. I placed the lion above the Putrescent Knight due to its versatility with 3 different elements, but besides that, it could honestly be at the bottom of this list as well. After her church was burned to the ground, Romina discovered a twisted divine element, turning herself over to the Scarlet Rot. This caused not only the environment around her to change, but also her physical form. She became a chimera sort of creature akin to the spider scorpions. Along with said transformation, the original bud became her blade. Now I know y'all hear Rot and start thinking about this bitch, but Romina is in no way, shape, or form as great as Malenia. The first reason being, it's fucking Malenia. Second, the demigod was an Empyrean, meaning she had the potential to become a god, which is exactly what happened in the base game. Romina is just a person who was infected. I put the Saint above Dancing Lion due to her having the backing of an outer god. Side note, this boss has literally no aura. The design sucks, it's easy, it has a boring colorway, and you fight it in a basic ass box fight arena that looks the exact same as all the other rotted churches. In terms of the original list though, I would put Romina below the Fire Giant because despite her power, I don't think she can deal with its size. Like the original Erdtree avatars, the Scattered Tree avatar is a defensive weapon, though unlike its kin from the Lands Between, the Scattered avatar is tasked with defending the entire base of the Shadow Tree. In the wake of the Shattering, the Erdtree avatars were assumedly created by the Greater Will to protect the minor Erdtrees, so of course the avatar for the entire Shadow Tree is far greater. In addition, the avatar possesses Miquella's Great Rune, or at least what's left of it. The Great Runes were said to make the demigods even more powerful. We could assume said strength is still retained even though the rune is broken. However, the item description states it's bereft of its bounty, which could imply it's useless. Even if we did assume Miquella's rune still had strength within, the Scattered avatar wouldn't be stronger than Rana or any of the demigods. You know, the ones with full Great Runes. So despite it seeming very weak in the game, the Shadow avatar's best interpretation puts him above the bottom 3. The Mother of Fingers was sent down from the stars even before the Elden beast, but that in no way makes her as powerful. Meter's task was to be an interpreter for the Greater Will, nothing more. This is supported by the fact of her spawning creatures like the Finger Creepers to defend herself, not really assisting the Golden Order in any combat related sense. I see the Elden Beast as a sort of enforcer for the Greater Will, whereas Metter is simply the translator, though it's not to say she doesn't have a great offense of her own. The Mother of Fingers can summon a microcosm and project multiple beams from it. Of course, she can not only spawn Finger Creepers, but also move like them too, fucking prick. With multiple other AoE attacks, I believe Metter possesses more versatility than the Scattered Avatar, but I still wouldn't place her above Rana. Gaius, the commander of Mesmer's army, rival to Radahn. Despite him having no bottom half, being an Albinauric, he rose to be a great military leader and even greater combatant. Not only did he learn gravity magic under the same Alabaster Lord Radahn did, but he performed this all while on the back of his boar. Again, Gaius had no legs, leading him to ride a steed at all times. Now I placed the commander here for two reasons. One, you could interpret his rivalry with Radahn as him being equal to the general at least up until he conquered the stars. That would make Gaius stronger than most of the demigods. However, the rivalry between the two was said to be friendly in nature, and it is implied Radahn was younger / less experienced. In addition, Gaius's mastery of magic doesn't seem to be greater than any version of Radahn we fight. However, unlike the first 5 characters on this list, Gaius has actual feats and is a notable combatant. He's not just some random creature or a special unit. Plus, gravity magic gives him far more mobility than those below him, being able to fly. On my original list, I would place Gaius below most of the demigods, as despite him being an extremely capable warrior, I don't see him beating Morgott or Mohg. During the assault on the Shadow Realm, Rana of the Twin Moon became known as the Sword of Mesmer, implying she was the second strongest fighter of his army. In addition, the blade was the younger sister of Rennala, one of the greatest sorcerers of all time. This is where I have to make an addendum to my original list. See, I first placed Rennala below Morgott and Mohg, kinda bad because while there isn't anything saying she's stronger, it just feels weird to have her below random children of America. I had a lot of comments telling me she 1v1'd Radagon, bro, which that didn't happen, but even so, Rennala should have been probably somewhat higher, yet below Rykard. Again though, there isn't any concrete evidence for her being above Mohg or Morgott, so I'm still right. In a similar fashion, Rana was one of the 20 Carian knights who fought the Golden Order during the 2 invasions of Liurnia. Plus, she most likely became even more powerful alongside Mesmer and Gaius. Said idea is supported by the fact of her implementing Mesmer's flame into her fighting style. So in terms of the original list, I'd say Rana is the only boss so far that could possibly defeat Mohg. Again though, all of the demigods were given great runes after Mesmer's legion departed, so the exact strength comparison gets very blurry here.
Depths of your foolishness!
After a terrifying transformation, Midra gives himself to the madness. The former sage becomes the Lord of Frenzied Flame, much like the Tarnished does in the bad ending of the game. In said bad ending, the lands between transforms into a lifeless hellscape, with the Erd Tree itself being gouged out. The flame's effects can even be seen in more minor ways, such as how it infected Midra's manse with the entire land surrounding it. This was before he became the Lord of Chaos, by the way. For the entire video, I've been making references to the conflict between the Hornsent and the Golden Order. However, the suppression of the Frenzied Flame is one issue both could agree on. Even before his transformation, the Hornsent thought Midra enough of a threat to invade his entire mansion, putting the land under quarantine. That dumbass boss that you fight before entering the area, yeah, that's just to keep you out. The Hornsent taking this much precaution even before the madness took over should be proof enough as to why Midra's top 3. Let alone his flame attacks that can infect others with madness, which only makes him stronger as the frenzy ensues. The entire world of Elden Ring is extremely lucky Midra didn't just croak 2 hours before the Tarnished got there, because by that time he would have grown too powerful. However, this hypothetical world-destroying Midra does not apply. For where he would rank on the OG list, I'll save that for the next section because Midra and number 2 can honestly go either way.
Mongrel intruder. That tarnished, it seems.
This placement should come to no one's surprise. I've been hyping him up the entire video. Mesmer was the first son of Marika, and while it hasn't been confirmed, his father is obviously Radigan. Of course, due to him being born of the same person, Mesmer was afflicted from birth, harboring within him the abyssal serpent. Marika feared the serpent so much to the point of sealing it away, even after she abandoned her son in the land of shadow. However, it's not just the serpent that makes Mesmer great. The entire reason Rana and Gaius followed him was because of his combat prowess. He even mentored Radahn as a kid. Also, keep in mind, the only time Mesmer unleashes the abyssal serpent is when we fight him, meaning every battle he fought in the lands between, plus his entire crusade against the Hornsent, he never even went all out. For the original list, Mesmer might just be above Malenia and Radahn because their titles of the strongest wouldn't apply to him. On top of that, despite Malenia having the affliction of the Scarlet Rot, Marika never sealed her away completely as with Mesmer. In contrast is the Great Rune thing again. The Impaler never got one, meaning he may have been left in the dust by the other demigods. Plus, you could argue his flame has the properties to burn the impenetrable thorns, which would mean Marika didn't seal him away for power reasons. She was just trying to avoid the burning of the Erd Tree. Regardless, it is a fact that Mesmer was extremely potent and respected enough to lead an entire army. As said before, Midra can rank at number 2 as well, but in my opinion, Mesmer's sporadic fighting style would overcome the Chaos Lord.
Curse you, Bale!
Okay, so someone tell me why Bale isn't a remembrance boss, but the fucking Putrescent Knight is? I decided to add this guy in because if I didn't, y'all would scream, so here he is. In my original video, I said we don't have anyone to scale Placidusax to in the modern day, and this doesn't change anything. All we know is that Bale challenged the Dragon Lord, and while it was an even fight, it seems he took more damage. Even so, Placidusax's scales alone are said to allow for the creation of god-slaying weapons. So the fact of Bale going even with him is insane. Once again, the Tarnished is lucky to fight these bosses in weaker forms, because Bale in his prime would be 1,000 times harder.
If you have known sin, if you grieve for this world, then yield the path forward to us.
You know, it seems kinda unfair to rank 2 deities at once, but there's no point in separating them. Consort Radahn being the final boss should say enough. Holy magic, blood flame, gravity powers, and on top of all that, the Radahn summoned might just be the strongest version of him. In my original video, I theorized the general earned his title of the strongest demigod before then holding back the stars, which nerfed him. This explains Morgott seemingly beating Radahn and his tie with Malenia. The version of Radahn in the DLC comes before the plight against the stars because his swords don't have the same gravity markings as they do in the modern day. So in short, the Radahn summoned might just be the mightiest demigod everyone speaks about. Oh, and that's not even covering the actual god on his back, by the way. Miquella at this point has fully ascended to godhood, meaning he is now the same level of Radigan and Marika. Said fact alone puts him above every character in this list and almost all on the OG list. The only thing I wouldn't put Miquella above is the Elden Beast. In my opinion, the Elden Beast is supposed to act as the Greater Will's enforcer, most likely being the force that trapped Marika in the Erd Tree. It's also named the embodiment of the Elden Ring with the backing of an outer god. Miquella has no real defense against this, but then again, he is with Radahn. Ultimately, it comes down to what y'all think. Are the brother duo capable of defeating the Elden Ring itself, the power that everything in the lands between is based on, or nah?